Every great civilization that ever collapsed had one thing in common. It wasn't war, it wasn't famine, it wasn't even a single catastrophic event. It was silence. A slow, creeping silence where the people who should have been paying attention simply stopped listening. And right now, that same silence is spreading through the world you live in. Think about that for a moment. No empire ever woke up one morning and decided to fall. Rome didn't schedule its own funeral. The Egyptians didn't send out invitations to their decline. It happened the way rust eats through iron, so gradually that by the time you notice the damage, the structure is already too weak to hold itself together. And here's what should terrify you. The people living inside those dying civilizations were absolutely convinced they were fine. They had their routines, their entertainments, their daily concerns. They argued about trivial things while the foundations beneath their feet were turning to dust. They couldn't see it because they were standing inside of it. And that is exactly where you and I are standing right now. There is a pattern that historians and philosophers have identified across thousands of years of human civilization, and it reads like a script that humanity keeps performing over and over again without ever learning the lesson. It starts with struggle. A group of people faces hardship, and that hardship forges them into something strong. They build systems, they create values, they establish principles that hold their world together. They sacrifice personal comfort for collective survival. They understand that freedom has a price and that order requires effort. And because of that understanding, they thrive. They build something extraordinary. But then something happens. Success arrives. Comfort spreads. The generation that fought and bled for what they built gives way to a generation that inherited it without understanding the cost. And this is where the first crack appears, invisible to almost everyone. Because comfort does something dangerous to the human mind. It creates the illusion that the way things are is the way things will always be. It whispers to you that you don't need to be vigilant, that you don't need to sacrifice, that the walls your ancestors built will stand on their own without anyone maintaining them. The philosopher Sir John Glubb studied this pattern across dozens of civilizations and found something remarkable. The average lifespan of a great empire is about 250 years, and they all follow roughly the same arc. The age of pioneers gives way to the age of conquest, which leads to the age of commerce, then the age of affluence, and finally the age of decadence. That last phase, the age of decadence, is where things get interesting, because decadence doesn't look the way you think it does. It doesn't announce itself with trumpets and fire. It arrives dressed in luxury, entertainment, and endless distraction. It feels good. It feels like progress, and that is precisely why it is so deadly. Look around you right now. How much of your day is consumed by things that didn't exist 20 years ago? How many hours vanish into a screen that feeds you an endless stream of content designed not to inform you, not to strengthen you, but to keep you engaged just long enough to sell you something? This isn't an accident. This is what the late stage of every civilization looks like when you translate it into modern terms. The Roman citizens had their bread and circuses. You have your algorithms and infinite scroll. The mechanism is different, but the effect on the human spirit is exactly the same. It pacifies, it numbs, it makes you a spectator in your own life, while the world around you is being reshaped by forces you're too distracted to notice. But here is the question that should keep you awake tonight. What if the collapse isn't something that happens to a society? What if it's something a society does to itself, one small choice at a time? You see, there's a moment in every person's life when they feel it, that quiet, nagging sense that something is off. You can't quite name it. Everything on the surface looks fine. You have food, shelter, entertainment, connection, at least the digital kind. But deep inside there is this hollow feeling, like you're living in a house that looks beautiful from the outside but has termites in the walls. You scroll through your phone and feel less connected, not more. You consume more information than any generation in history and yet feel less wise. You have more choices than your grandparents could have imagined, and yet feel more paralyzed. This isn't a personal failing. This is a symptom of something much larger. This is what it feels like to live inside a civilization that is quietly losing its center of gravity. The ancient Greeks had a word for it. They called it acedia, a spiritual apathy, a deep weariness of the soul that makes you unable to care about the things that actually matter. The medieval monks considered it one of the deadliest sins, not because it was dramatic or violent, but because it was invisible. It crept in when life became too comfortable, too predictable, too safe, and once it took hold, it drained the will to build, to create, to defend, to love with any real depth. Sound familiar? Think about the conversations people have today. How often do they touch on anything that truly matters? How often do we talk about purpose, about meaning, about the kind of world we want to leave behind? Instead, we debate the surface of things. We argue about personalities and scandals and trending topics that will be forgotten in a week. We have outsourced our thinking to algorithms and our values to whatever the crowd seems to approve of today. And in doing so, we have committed the same sin that every dying civilization commits. We have confused activity with progress, noise with communication, and consumption with living. If this idea is already resonating with you, imagine what comes next. Subscribe so you don't miss this journey, because what I'm about to tell you goes much deeper than you think. There is a concept in psychology called normalization of deviance. It was first identified after the Space Shuttle Challenger disaster, and it describes how dangerous behaviors become accepted over time simply because nothing bad has happened yet. Engineers knew the O-rings were a problem. They raised concerns, but because the shuttle had launched successfully before, despite the flaw, the danger became normalized. It became acceptable until it wasn't. Until 7 people died in a ball of fire on live television. This is exactly what societies do on a massive scale. We normalize things that would have horrified previous generations, not because we've thought deeply about them and decided they're acceptable, but because the slide has been so gradual that we've lost our frame of reference. We no longer remember what the standard was, so we can't see how far we've drifted from it. Think about what we now consider normal. Children spending 8 hours a day staring at screens. Adults who can't sit in silence for 5 minutes without reaching for their phone. Entire communities where neighbors don't know each other's names. A world where loneliness has become an epidemic, even though we are more connected than any humans in history. None of this happened overnight. It happened one small step at a time, each step so tiny that it seemed harmless. And that is the genius of civilizational decline. It never asks you to accept the end result all at once. It just asks you to accept the next small step, and then the next, and then the next, until one day you look up and realize you're standing somewhere you never intended to be. The philosopher Alexander Solzhenitsyn saw this clearly. He survived the Soviet gulags and emerged with a perspective that most comfortable people cannot comprehend. He warned that the decline of the West would not come from external enemies, but from an internal loss of courage and spiritual depth. He saw a civilization that had everything except the one thing that mattered most, a reason to endure hardship, a purpose worth suffering for. And without that, he knew, even the mightiest society becomes a hollow shell, waiting to be crushed by the first real storm. But here is where the story takes a turn, because understanding the problem is only the first step. The real question, the one that matters for your life right now, is what can be done about it. And the answer is both simpler and harder than you might expect. It starts with you. Not with governments, not with institutions, not with some grand political movement. It starts with the individual decision to wake up, to step out of the current that is carrying everyone downstream, and to plant your feet on solid ground. Every great renewal in human history began not with a revolution, but with a small number of people who refused to keep sleepwalking. People who decided that their own integrity, their own depth, their own commitment to truth mattered more than comfort. The Stoic philosophers understood this perfectly. Marcus Aurelius, who ruled the most powerful empire on earth, wrote in his private journal that the quality of your life is determined by the quality of your thoughts. He didn't write self-help books for the masses. He wrote reminders to himself because he knew that the battle for civilization is won or lost inside the individual mind first. If your mind is cluttered with trivia, your life will be trivial. If your mind is disciplined, focused, and oriented toward what truly matters, you become a pillar that others can lean on when the ground starts shaking. This means making choices that the culture around you will not understand. It means turning off the noise and sitting with silence, even when it's uncomfortable. It means reading deeply instead of scrolling endlessly. It means having real conversations about difficult topics instead of hiding behind small talk. It means building relationships based on truth rather than convenience. It means accepting that growth requires discomfort and that a life without struggle is a life without meaning. These are not dramatic actions. They will not make headlines, but they are the exact actions that have preserved what is best in humanity through every dark age and every period of decline. There's a Japanese concept called kintsugi, the art of repairing broken pottery with gold. Instead of hiding the cracks, you illuminate them. You make the damage part of the beauty. This is what conscious individuals can do within a declining civilization. You don't pretend the cracks aren't there. You don't ignore the signs of decay. Instead, you fill them with something precious, with awareness, with intentional living, with the courage to be different when being different is the hardest thing in the world. But there is a secret still deeper that very few people are willing to face. The secret is this. The collapse of a society is not a tragedy if it leads to an awakening. Every great civilization that fell made way for something new. The fall of Rome eventually gave birth to the Renaissance. The darkest periods of human history have often preceded the greatest leaps forward. Destruction and creation are not opposites. They are partners in an eternal dance. And the people who understand this, the ones who can see the destruction without being destroyed by despair, they are the ones who carry the seeds of the next great chapter. This means that the anxiety you feel, that sense that something is deeply wrong with the world, is not a weakness. It is a gift. It is your awareness trying to wake you up. Most people will suppress that feeling. They will drown it in distraction, medicate it away, or simply pretend it doesn't exist. But you are still here, still listening, which tells me something about you. It tells me that somewhere inside you there is a part that refuses to go numb. And that part of you is more powerful than you know. The great psychiatrist Viktor Frankl, who survived the Nazi concentration camps, discovered that the people who endured the worst horrors were not the strongest or the smartest. They were the ones who had a meaning to hold on to, a reason to keep going that was bigger than their suffering. This is the antidote to civilizational decay, not a political program, not a new technology, not a revolution. Meaning. Personal, deep, unshakable meaning that you cultivate in your own life and then radiate outward into the world around you. So here is what I want you to understand as we reach the end of this conversation. Societies die when their people fall asleep, when comfort replaces courage, when distraction replaces depth, when the individual stops asking the hard questions and simply drifts with the current. But societies are also reborn when even a small number of people decide to wake up. You don't need to save the world. You need to save yourself from the numbness. You need to become the kind of person who sees clearly, lives deliberately, and refuses to trade meaning for comfort. Because when enough individuals do that, something remarkable happens. The culture shifts, not from the top down, but from the inside out. One awakened mind at a time. The poet Rumi wrote something centuries ago that feels like it was meant for this exact moment. He said, The wound is the place where the light enters you, the cracks you see in the world around you, the decline, the confusion, the loss of direction. These are not reasons for despair. They are openings. They are invitations for something luminous to come through. But only if you have the courage to stay awake while the world sleeps. This is your invitation, not to fix everything, but to begin with yourself, to become someone who lives with their eyes open, their mind sharp, and their heart engaged, because that is how societies are not only lost but also found, one conscious soul at a time. If this message reached something inside you, leave a comment and tell me what part hit the hardest. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it, someone you know is feeling that same quiet unease but hasn't found the words for it yet. Hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications because this conversation is far from over. We are just getting started, and in a world that is falling asleep, the most radical thing you can do is choose to stay awake.